Jason Voorhees is a fictional character from the horror movie franchise Friday the 13th. He was created by Victor Miller and Ron Kurz, and first appeared in the original movie, Friday the 13th, which was released in 1980. The history of Jason Voorhees and the Friday the 13th franchise is a complex and often contradictory one, with different movies presenting different versions of the character's backstory. In terms of his personal history, little is known about Jason's upbringing, friends, or school life. The character is portrayed as a silent, almost mindless killer, driven by a desire for revenge against those who have wronged him or his mother. His primary motivation seems to be to protect the territory around Crystal Lake, which he sees as his home and birthright. In the first film, Jason is not the main antagonist, but rather a plot device used to deceive the audience. He is portrayed as a young boy who drowns in Crystal Lake due to the negligence of the camp counselors. His mother, Pamela Voorhees, takes revenge on the counselors by killing them one by one. It is only at the end of the movie that the audience is led to believe that Jason is still alive, when he jumps out of the water and grabs the surviving counselor, Alice. In the subsequent films, Jason becomes the primary antagonist and the focus of the franchise. He is depicted as a disfigured, masked killer who stalks and murders the camp counselors and other teenagers who venture into the woods surrounding Crystal Lake. His signature weapon is a machete, but he also uses other implements such as axes, spears, and garden tools. The films in the Friday the 13th franchise can be divided into several distinct timelines, which have been created through various retcons and reboots. Here is a summary of the different timelines. The original timeline, 1980 to 2003. This timeline includes the first 10 movies in the franchise, starting with Friday the 13th and ending with Jason X. In this timeline, Jason is depicted as a supernatural entity who cannot be killed, and who returns from the dead each time he is thought to be defeated. The reboot timeline, 2009. In 2009, a reboot of the franchise was released, also called Friday the 13th. This movie reimagined the origin story of Jason, and depicted him as a human rather than a supernatural entity. The events of this movie take place in a separate continuity from the original timeline. The crossover timeline, 2003. In 2003, a crossover movie was released called Freddy vs. Jason, which brings together the characters of Jason Voorhees and Freddy Krueger from the Nightmare on Elm Street franchise. This movie takes place in a separate continuity from both the original and reboot timelines. Here is a list of all the movies in the Friday the 13th franchise, sorted by timeline. Original timeline, Friday the 13th in 1980. Friday the 13th Part 2 in 1981. Friday the 13th Part 3 in 1982. Friday the 13th, The Final Chapter in 1984. Friday the 13th, A New Beginning in 1985. Friday the 13th Part 6, Jason Lives in 1986. Friday the 13th Part 7, The New Blood in 1988. Friday the 13th Part 8, Jason Takes Manhattan in 1989. Jason Goes to Hell, The Final Friday in 1993. Jason X, 2002, Reboot Timeline, Friday the 13th in 2009 and Crossover Timeline, Freddy vs. Jason in 2003. Jason Voorhees has had a significant influence on the horror film industry, particularly in the slasher subgenre. He is one of the most recognizable and iconic horror movie villains of all time, with his signature hockey mask and machete being instantly recognizable to fans of the genre. The success of the Friday the 13th franchise, which has grossed over $500 million worldwide, has inspired numerous imitators and rip-offs, and helped to popularize the slasher genre in the 1980s. The franchise has also spawned a dedicated fan base, with many fans eagerly anticipating each new installment. Jason's enduring popularity has led to numerous parodies and homages in popular culture, including references in films, TV shows, and music. He has also been the subject of academic analysis and discussion, with scholars examining his cultural significance and impact on the horror genre. While the exact details of Jason's backstory may be murky, his iconic look and terrifying presence have made him one of the most recognizable and enduring horror movie villains of all time. His impact on the horror genre and popular culture as a whole cannot be overstated. and his legacy continues to be celebrated by fans and filmmakers alike. And all that. It's the story right now. Thank you for joining us and listening. Please press subscribe, and press the notification bell. When there's something new, we'll come to sit around the circle and listen to each other again. For today, have a good day to you. See you then.